March 1st. We're having a workshop as advertised here. We have all 5 elected officials here and in attendance, some remotely, some at presence at City Hall. I guess at this point, we can hand it over to the city planner.
Who has?
Well,
Or
I'm
John?
here. So, how do you guys want to do this? I mean, we're what questions do you have? I mean, I don't know where to begin or how you want to begin it. I don't.
Well, we have a problem.
Right.
We've identified the problem. We want to know what the solution is to fix the problem. The solution that was suggested was maybe a little too extreme in the eyes of some. And so we were trying to find out if there's not another solution that might not be as extreme that would fit. I mean, we've got some property owners here. We've got Mr. Robinson, who is one of the major property owners on that section of road. Mr. Lineberry was supposed to be here.
I think he's on his way.
Okay. So, I think he has some probably broader spectrum ideas about how to handle this issue, but I don't know that we'll be able to get through those tonight in this particular workshop. And then when we hadn't really talked about some of those issues, and I don't know if it's even proper for us to discuss those. James, Gino, y'all might answer that question. I mean, are we doing this workshop on the broader scale, or are we just going to try and figure out this particular issue tonight?
Where's Mr. Gino?
I'm here. Only thing we can address is what was in the notice.
Okay.
And that was certain amendments to the CG.
Got it. Okay.
Commercial general.
All right.
The commercial general, I'm sorry.
So
Just to remove it altogether.
well, to go over part of the issue that I've got is that, and by the way, since this has come out, I've had numerous people that have called me and they've had the same question for a lot of years, actually. I have some City Hall employees that asked me the same question. Even this afternoon when I came in here, they were like, well, why is it all of these automotive locations are all in one spot? And we don't know the answer to the question as to how they got that way. Mr. Robinson actually may be able to provide some history that would allow us to talk about that, but we don't want to add to. My theory on that is, I mean, we survive on our sales tax. We are not a property tax city. If we walk in and we've got $1 and somebody is going to go buy something from an auto parts location, well, that $1 is going to be split 23 ways, as opposed to having 2 locations that each one of them gets 50 cents of it. That's not helping us in our property tax, and it hasn't helped us in the past in some of the upkeep of the businesses because they're just all getting a small portion. It's not enough money, I don't believe, going around to actually allow them to do some major overhauls on some of the buildings. Those are some other issues to address. But right now, what I'm trying to figure is how do we stop the influx of the automotive into one area, or the other side of that is Mr. Robinson will tell you, how do we actually introduce some of those same uses into other areas into the city? One or the other. I know that y'all reached out to Franklin, Brentwood, some other places. How did they address it?
And as as we had it before, just removing it from the district outright, that's not unusual. It seems from what I was looking at, the newer codes, like say Franklin, for instance, Spring Hill, for instance, has a newer, I think 2018 code. A lot of those do not permit that use, repair in their general commercial district. So it seems like the more modern codes out there, they do just that. Now the other 2 big ways of handling it I noticed were to have 2 different classifications of auto repair, minor and major, depending on that's kind of not going to get you, this doesn't really make sense though.
Right.
So they do that. And then also the conditional use thing we talked about. Those seem to be the 3 biggest ways people handle it, but removing it outright from the district would not be unusual.
So that is a practice that is done in other cities, our size.
Yeah.
In the
Yes.
newer
codes, and
zoning
I
codes.
looked up a few more, besides what I sent earlier, and it's just kind of around town. They didn't really support that though. Like Portland is kind of like our current code. Nolansville, I thought would be different, but they have a very different, very limited number of zoning districts. So they only have, I think, 2 or 3 commercial districts, so it's allowed in there,
Okay.
general commercial. But a lot of towns around here, they have similar codes. Lebanon, Goodlettsville, our code, they're kind of similar. So locally, that's what we have.
Right. A lot of those surrounding communities use the state local planning office, just like
The what?
we did. They used the state local planning office like we did to create
Right, I
our
remember
zoning
that, sure.
ordinance. So the zoning ordinances are very similar to ours all over.
Which is
except
kind
for-
of, I think is probably something that's better suited for a smaller city. It's probably a more archaic process.
That's why you see so many zoning ordinances come
Amendments,
through.
yeah.
Zoning ordinance
Yeah.
amendments.
So as we've outgrown that particular process, we moved into a different realm, I guess.
Mhm.
I don't remember, Bill,
tend to
y'all
learn
y'all
from
may
mistakes,
may
I
remember
guess.
the days when we used the state. The state actually was our planner,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm trying to remember the guy's name, Jim
I don't remember his name.
Meredith. Exactly. Jim
He was our
Meredith
city
was
engineer,
the
wasn't
state planner.
Has he both?
That's
No, I thought
right.
he was our city engineer.
And it was a very cookie cutter process.
Mhm.
So-
And then I believe in 98 is when they implemented the current code.
Okay.
And we
Right.
just amended it since.
So did you get any reasons as you went through this to find out why they would do one or the other as far as commercial general goes?
I think probably for the same reasons you have.
Just there's been an influx and you need to slow the influx?
Yeah, and keep it depends on the commercial district too. I mean, your commercial general generally is highly visible along a main corridor, and the ones that don't have it in commercial general, they tend to put it in Franklin. You have to do they call it a planned district, which is something with more scrutiny in the front end, kind of like a PUD. And if they're not in CG, then they go in industrial in those codes, or if they're not in like a general commercial. So it's same thought.
It's allowed commercial mixed uses as well.
It
Yeah.
is here, yeah.
It is.
Not always in other
With the
codes.
conditional use permit.
In CMU condition.
Mhm. We actually have one going before BZ8 this coming up in March.
So what is the process for a commercial mixed use PUD to get zoning on a O'Reilly's or,
So if it's already zoned commercial mixed use, they don't have to come in as a PUD. They just have to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals and ask for a conditional use permit. So for instance, we have Wash and Roll wanting to relocate over on Belinda Parkway near the Exxon. And so in March, I think it was the 8th,
Mhm.
and they'll be coming for the Board of Zoning
Right.
Appeals for the 11th.
Whatever.
It's the Thursday before Planning
Whatever.
Commission.
All right.
Uh,
but
to
they go
ask
for the
that
Board of
use.
Zoning Appeals to do that, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Tell me more about the planned district, huh? How does that work? I mean,
I can't say I read into it, what Franklin does exactly with it. They got a very new, it's a brand.
Metro has those plan districts too.
Yeah.
It's very similar to our PUD process.
Right.
I think Metro's is called an SP.
Special
Special.
plan.
Similar thing with Franklin. I could dig into it more, but I don't know. Typically those are like how we treat a pod. More
So,
more
okay.
scrutiny on the front end, from everybody. That would be an option. I mean, if you could we do that?
Mhm.
Make it what would that benefit? How would that benefit though, to make it a pod?
Well,
Yeah,
it wouldn't
yeah.
benefit on location.
Right.
It
Sorry?
wouldn't benefit the location at all if that's what you're trying to avoid, because it would still be allowed with the PUD.
Right.
I mean, as long as they met the code. You know what I'm saying? You could ask for more things. You could ask for screening or extra landscaping or those types of things, just like we do in a PUD. But I mean, if it's allowed in that base district, that base zoning, then if it's location, that's what's the hang up, then I don't know that a PUD would necessarily be the way to go.
So it wouldn't solve any current.
No, because you could still put it in CG.
Right. We have, with our code, we can put a PUD anywhere.
Right.
So it's not just specific districts that can get certain things. You know, if you establish the PUD, then you can go.
As long as it's allowed in that
over
base
top of-
zoning
Yeah,
of
right.
CG, then
Yeah.
It's 15 acres.
Yeah, Franklin has like, it appears like
multifamily 20.
they have a base district where you're allowed to do PUDs. You know, not all districts will have overlay. You can put an overlay over top of any district here. You couldn't do that there.
In Spring Hill.
Yeah, so they have a specific areas that allow that to be done in, not just anywhere like you could here. Any different, you know, any base zoning could get an overlay here if it's voted on, you know.
So where do we have the CG?
I have it on the map here.
The
The zoning map.
dark
It's
red.
literally right there along that Lebanon Road corridor, and there's a few pieces along Nominal Road.
That's it.
That's it, yeah. So that's why I don't think a PUD would be beneficial, because, I mean, if you're trying to spread it out throughout the community. I
And
mean,
if you're gonna put it in industrial, if you can't put it in CG, then Mount Juliet doesn't really have much of an industrial area.
Well, we have quite a bit. It's in the gray there.
Doesn't-
Where's that?
So along Belinda Parkway, Golden Bear, Industrial, Clemens, it definitely takes it off that main corridor besides Golden Bear, which is our future main corridor, which
It's already-
needs some development. We need some development over there.
Car lots out there.
It's already permitted.
Some big ones
Right.
in IR.
So that would,
Mark, you had some ideas. You and I talked before.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Talking to the microphone so James
Catch
can
up.
hear you.
Sorry, I'm just trying to listen right now, but yeah, I've got some ideas. I mean, maybe I got here late and didn't hear, but what's the problem that we're talking about? Is it the automotive?
No, the problem is that the Lineberry family just owns too much property on Lebanon Road.
Okay.
No, I'm just messing with you. No, the problem is that we've got 23 individual automotive locations in less than a mile section.
And when you say automotive,
We are saturated. Now, hold up, Tony, you asked the question and let me answer it. So then we get into where we've got these 23 individual locations that are all automotive related. We have got the same dollar basically that goes in that is either going to be split 23 ways or 2 ways, depending on, you know, how many locations we've got. But that it doesn't help us property tax wise. And honestly, other than the person who receives the rent, which would be you guys, y'all are getting your rent at that location, but it doesn't provide enough of revenue for you guys to be able to say, hey, you know, we're getting enough off of this that we can actually improve the aesthetics of that location. You know, we want to be able to take, and either what you were talking about in the past and you and I had talked about, and I don't think it's a bad idea, would be to open other areas up to get these people off of Lebanon Road, but that doesn't solve our immediate problem.
Look, you're saying a mile stretch. I think you actually mean from the county line to Bender's Ferry.
No, I'm
Yeah.
talking about from,
For 2 miles.
I'm talking about from Green Hill, North Green Hill to the ballpark.
and when you say automotive, you're including car wash,
Everything automotive.
automotive repair,
Absolutely.
automotive sales.
Does that not go all the way to Shiloh?
It does, but the section that I'm talking about is only from North Green Hill to the ballpark.
Okay, well, don't throw me
I know, but
under the bus with
I-
What
I'm
Mark
not.
is saying, it goes.
I just
it
enjoy
limits
throwing you under the
Shiloh.
bus. Do what, Jennifer?
Yeah, what Mark is saying is CG goes from city limits to city limits, from Shiloh to the barber shop there right before West. It's the entire stretch. It's not just a mile.
Actually, no, but what I'm talking about is the number of locations that are in that stretch from North Green Hill to the ballpark. There's 23. I didn't count the others that are outside that, nor did I
Yeah, I
count the
know.
ones that are going into Bill Trevette's district here shortly. Now, there's going to be additional. There's going to be more.
Yeah, because I was just
I know.
looking and there's a ton from North Green Hill Road on down to the county line. So.
Well, I didn't
know
include
what
them. So if you want to add them, maybe there's 40 now
There's
instead of
maybe
23.
Maybe 40, yeah.
But there's 23 of them from North Green Hill to which is the area that I'm trying to pretty it up. I'm trying to do something better.
I'm not at odds with you over it. Now, did you count how many of those I'm actually collecting rent on?
No, I didn't want to
There might be
specify
two.
you. I'm not trying to
There might
single
be
you
two
out.
Out of that. So I just don't blame it all on me.
No, I didn't. I
I'm
was
trying to
going after
clean
Bill
it up.
Robinson too.
It's Bill. I want to clean it up too. I'm not disagreeing with that at all, but I think what we've done is, what happened is we've only got CG zoning on Lebanon Road. That's the only place that it's allowed. Now, that's a problem that came from 40 years ago, and it's never been changed. These car lots, I was driving down the road today thinking, what is causing all these car lots to locate here? What it is they don't really care what the building looks like. They care what their lot looks like. So they're taking these old houses that y'all rezoned for CG, and they're putting car lots in them. Eye doctors and dentists and people like that, they're not going to go into an old house and just do like that. As a general rule, they want a nicer looking place. And that's more of what we'd like to get. But, Providence has sucked all the oxygen out of that side of town. So we're left with the car lots and the auto stuff.
The dregs of humanity on the north side of town. Yeah,
Because
I
you
get
can't
it.
afford to build it on Lebanon Road.
Huh?
Well, you can't afford to build something like that on Lebanon Road. We've got the same building codes, the same standards applied in Providence that are applied on Lebanon Road. We have to build the same building, build to the same standards. Well, the businesses, if they got to pay the same rent, there's the same investment for their building, they just don't go to Providence, and that's what they're doing. So if you want to encourage something else on Lebanon Road, let's talk about how do we encourage it instead of how do we keep everybody out, because you're going to end up with a bunch of vacant stuff on Lebanon Road. Is what you're going to get.
Well, I mean, the people who own property on Lebanon Road won't allow it to be vacant long.
Yeah, we'll put a car lot back in.
No, you can't put a car lot. Well, you can put it
But
back in, but
You're not
going
going to
to.
like the alternative. You can't ban every offensive use. Let's encourage a better use.
How do you do that?
Well, that's what I'm trying to get at.
Okay.
Maybe we relax some of those standards a little bit where it doesn't cost as much to build on Lebanon Road as it does in Providence.
Well-
And I'm not saying make it unsafe. I'm saying, maybe we don't do all four sides brick. Maybe we don't have the landscaping requirements that they have or the parking requirements that they require over there. Maybe there's some things like that would let us offer an alternative, where you could have more of the mom and pop shops, because that's what everybody wants on Lebanon Road. They want that hometown feel on the north side of town. But, mom and pop coffee shop or tea room can't afford to pay the $40 a foot that you pay in Providence for rent. So maybe there's something else we can do that would encourage those kind of things on this side of town.
It sounds like it's the same things that are restricting things like bowling alleys and skate centers where you need a lower cost per square foot that you just aren't able to generate with the building requirements that we have in these. So this is it's a larger problem than just Lebanon Road or cleaning CG or any of these other things over here. It's a bigger discussion for a lot of businesses that are out. And, if we're keeping people out, we're keeping competition in. Competition's what's driving change. We see the new car wash there at Benton Douglas. We see Christian Brothers that's come in, and we've seen the product that they're bringing there, and they're bringing that on Lebanon Road. But if we're keeping them out in the future, then there's nothing to put any pressure on the existing ones. And I guess that's my hang up about removing certain uses from it. We're eliminating that ability to put the pressure through competition on it through free market.
We've had that competition in place for many years. The zoning, and pretty much everything that we've got on Lebanon Road, we've had on Lebanon Road. That hasn't
No,
changed.
that's a lie.
No, it's not.
Yeah, Russell Tire's not
Well,
there anymore.
Oh,
Hey,
well,
guys, can I-
God bless your heart. I
Yeah,
know.
you should
Keep
know about that one. No, look at all the things that aren't there anymore that are being pushed out. Now they are growing out more toward that area between North Green Hill Road and Shiloh, because that's the underdeveloped, the cheaper area. So that's where they're being pushed to.
We've got a section
coming
though
out.
that is actually, at Lebanon Road and Mount Juliet Road, at that intersection right there, which should be driving a lot of economic development in that location. Would you agree with that?
It is.
No, right now it's not. And it hasn't in many years. I mean, Ken Grider sold Capital City Market how many years ago? How many years ago was that,
No, I don't know.
I think it's about 8 or 10. I mean, I'm guessing there. I don't know exactly.
Okay.
But I mean, it has done nothing the entire time.
I'm
The land
trying
behind
to
it.
do something with it right now, and you're stopping me. From
Hey,
doing
man,
something
no, I'm
with
not.
it.
I'm not stopping
Yeah, you
anything
are.
at this point.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to do is get something in here that is not just automotive. If you're bringing in more automotive, you're bringing in exactly what we've got.
What
If you
else?
continue to do the same thing over and over and again, and you expect a different result, that's the definition of insanity in any book I've ever read.
Well, nobody's putting a car lot there. Nobody's putting a.
I didn't say car
grease
lot.
monkey shop there.
I said automotive business.
There's a difference between Christian Brothers and a lot of the other shops that are up and down the road. I don't think a lot of people would object to having something like Christian Brothers on that corner.
If there were 10 or 12 of them, there would.
There wouldn't be 10 or 12 of them.
I am, this is not just me out here spouting this stuff. This is people that I represent. And, I've got about 8,000 or 9,000 of those people that I represent. And I have to be a voice for those folks. This is what they're telling me. They are sick of it. Now, I'm trying to figure out how to fix this. We need probably to look at what the problem is, see what the proper responses to those problems are, and know that we can do something that will be short range. And then I would like to do something that is long range. I don't want to outlaw any business. I would never want to do that. But at the same time, I would like to meter it so that over a period of time, we can start getting a better balance of businesses on Lebanon Road. What's happened is over a period of time, Lebanon Road has become one of the more economically depressed areas in our city. Now, a lot of that has to do with the zoning that has happened over a period of many, many, many years. It ain't anything me, you, Bill, or anybody else had to do with. But we've got to figure out how to fix that. That's all I'm asking for is somebody can come up with an idea of how to do that. Again, start with something that is short range that we can do some immediate things. And if that it means encouraging you to do something or Bill, give you all some incentives, I'm good with that.
That's what it means.
Okay, well, let's start with that.
The reason that it's under, or whatever you call it, depressed areas, is because everything wants to go to Providence. You know that. Everybody that comes to town, they want to be in Providence. We have to drag them kicking and screaming over to Lebanon Road, and sometimes the businesses do well there.
Well, I think another thing to address here, and I know this may sound like a selfish thing, but we've owned some of that property on Lebanon Road for 30, 40 years. We bought it with the zoning in place, and to change it is kind of a condemnation. You're condemning the property to a limited use. So I don't know, Gino, I might address this to you. If in Metro, when they do an overlay, like in their tall and skinnies and stuff like that, they allow for an opt-out for all their people, so they don't, from a legal standpoint. Can you address that?
Two things. It has to do with the non-conforming use statute that the state passed in 2013, and Metro was allowed to opt out of some of those provisions. But whatever the zoning changes from this point forward, it can't and won't impact any quote non-conforming use. So CG will hit any automotive aspects or commercial, long as an entity stays there and continues to stay there and doesn't use for, I think, months. It continues to be able to operate, and you could tear the whole building down and rebuild it, but it's still there. You can add, you've got to still comply with the building codes and permits and that are for new construction, meet the setbacks and so forth.
I think we get that, but Bill's talking more about, we, as a property owner, we have the right to use it for a certain thing when we buy the property. And then when you change that and take it away, even though we weren't using it for that, now you've still taken away a right that we had to use it for something. 3 months ago, before I bought the Mapco property, I had the right to use it for automotive stuff. If you pass this law, I don't have that right to use it for what I bought it for, what I intended to use it for. So, you're cutting in and out.
Yeah, you might have to.
If it's a Mapco place now and it has a, and it's,
Gino, you're really breaking up.
I'm sorry. I referred to it as the Mapco lot. It's a vacant piece of property that I intended to build automotive use something on.
For everybody else that's in between the Slim Chickens and the old Capitol.
Gino, he's referring to a lot that's currently vacant.
Yeah, and not being used. So yes, you'd have to comply with the new regs. Unless you've done something to it, gotten a building permit, vested rights, et cetera.
I think we've successfully blocked him from that.
Yeah. You're right.
I think it definitely needs to be approached from two different angles. Because what I'm hearing you say, correctly, there are too many automotive shops in that stretch of Lebanon Road. Second thing I think I hear you saying is we got to do something about cleaning up the businesses that are on that stretch. I don't think eliminating competition is going to drive that behavior. That's just my personal opinion. The other thing, you made a good point, is provide some incentive to bring other businesses in there that could or would clean up that area, reface it, facelift, if you will. The only thing I could see as a fair compromise, rather than taking those uses out altogether, is marking it as a conditional use and just running them through the Board of Appeals like they do for is it CMU? CMU.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, I don't have a problem with that. I have literally never been to the Board of Zoning Appeals and spoke to them. I would tell you that's going to put more pressure on them, and I don't even know who is on that committee. Don't want to know right now. But there would be a lot of pressure that would be concentrated on them at that point to start making some really good decisions.
Gino, if I could, if the Board of Zoning Appeals felt like a location wasn't ideal for this type of use, what leg do they have to stand on to issue a denial? I don't think you can do it by, I don't think this is an ideal use. So give me some examples of reasons that they could deny it.
It would be as long as they meet the requirements for the condition.
So as long as they meet our code.
So basically, we would have to create conditions that they would have to meet other than those normally met in commercial general, correct?
That's
Okay, what you said.
You're breaking up really bad,
coherent
Gino.
with the surrounding area, you know, and so forth. They're pretty statements.
So we can set the conditions. Is that what it?
So, okay,
So above, Gino, are supplemental provisions. We already have supplemental provisions.
Correct.
so what do supplemental provisions look like? What is that?
It's basically fence around
Fence,
the area.
enclosed for certain things, they have to be in the building, fence around storage
Mhm.
cars, can't be a junkyard, can't function like a junkyard or a scrapyard, things like that. Things to minimize the impact of the use. That's what we have now, you know.
So I guess what I'm hearing then is we don't necessarily need to go in and redo the whole zoning ordinance. We just need to come up with conditions that would allow certain businesses.
Drive certain behavior. Or
I mean, I'll give you an example. I'm not fond of any more car wash. I'm, you know, and believe me when I tell you I love Steve Griffith to death, okay? I don't want another unicorn car wash, and that's what all these kids are calling it now because of the lights. You know, I get tickled when they tell me my daughter calls it the unicorn car wash. That's where I got that from. And they do an excellent job. But to get another one, you know, I don't need another place that will change my oil. I mean, we already
I
got
have a question.
3. How many more do we need?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
How many cars are on Lebanon Road from city limits to city limits?
Right now, there's 3.
3?
Yes.
Wait a minute, not on Lebanon Road. Well, you're talking about, there's the two self-service car washes.
Two
One of them
self-service
closed
car
down.
washes, one tunnel wash, yeah.
Yeah, one of them closed down, about to become O'Reilly.
Yeah, oh, well,
Okay,
one of
so
them's gonna close
one.
down and become a car, parts place.
All right, so really there's one, wash and roll.
No, there's another one immediately down the street that they just got purchased, and it is a self-wash right beside the Speedway. They're
Okay,
within
but
a half a mile of each other.
Yeah, but that's a totally different style. So you won't even
Yeah,
see that. So
It's still a car wash.
my question is this, Ray. Y'all say that this is not going to create a monopoly, but let's take the wash and roll. If this goes through what you're proposing, that means not one car wash to literally be in a competition for the wash and roll is going to, there's not going to be any competition at all.
Okay.
How could that not create a monopoly?
Okay, let me ask you, Jennifer, is the car wash but they just got told we could also put them in CMU
Right.
zoning as well,
And
Where's
industrial.
that?
And industrial.
under conditional use.
Where do those exist?
Pleasant
Where?
Grove.
Commercial mix is Pleasant.
Everything in
Grove,
Providence is a CMU PUD.
So the other end of town.
Yeah.
Go back property.
We have a wash and roll coming in for BZA in March for Belinda Parkway.
Yeah, that's, there's already,
Yes, I'm excited about that one.
you're excited about that one?
Belinda Parkway.
Okay. Yay. I'm glad.
But my question is, the wash and roll on Lebanon Road,
Uh-huh.
if this goes through as presented, you're going to create a monopoly up there for him. He's going to have a monopoly.
Well, it's a little
He's
late
not
to
gonna
have a
have any
monopoly. He's already
competition.
got another car wash there.
But that's not even comparable, in my opinion.
Okay. Well, I understand what you're saying, and I do agree with you to a point. But when I've got a car wash right beside the Speedway, and then I've got another one less than a half mile up on the left-hand side, those are two car washes. Now, you can say one's a tunnel wash and one's self-serve, but I will tell you this, by what has been, Gino has told us on numerous occasions, somebody wanted to come down and take the car wash that exists there beside the Speedway, and they want to create another wash and roll or another tunnel car wash. They can do that because it's been an allowed use for 20-something years.
As
So-
long as it don't sit vacant for 30 months.
Unless it stays vacant for 30 months. But if somebody bought it, obviously that wouldn't be the
That
case.
was in the floodplain.
So
Nobody's gonna do that.
it doesn't matter. They can do that.
They can't.
Yeah.
They're not going to.
So I have a question, if you guys don't mind me, chiming in here. So for example, if a developer comes in and decides, hey, I want to put an O'Reilly's in the city of Mount Juliet, which what they're going to be planning on doing, they obviously did their own research. They know there's a market there. And if I'm going to go buy a car wash and I want to put a car wash on Lebanon Road, and I have the ability to, I'm going to be looking to make sure I make my money back that I invested. So, for example, if, kind of what Jennifer's saying is that, right now we have two different types of car washes. Just like, for example, the Christian Brothers, they're in business to provide a service for the community. If they need a car part for, let's just say, I'm just gonna throw it out there, a 2015 Dodge Ram, okay? And O'Reilly's don't have it, what are they gonna do? They're gonna go down the street to Advance Auto Parts. So it's a revolving door for these businesses to help develop themselves and to be able to maintain themselves. And if we're pigeon-toeing these folks that own the property on what they're gonna be putting in, just because we have some folks that are not coming to the board meetings, saying what they feel, we have these meetings and there's 40,000 people in Mount Juliet, and we don't have anybody coming to these board meetings except for they're all going to you, Ray. You're saying you have 8,000 people that's going to you complaining about what's on Lebanon Road. Why are they not coming in and actually voicing their opinion? That's my thought, is because
Because they have an elected
like I'm
representative to
telling
do that
everybody
for
else.
them.
What's that?
They have an elected representative to be their voice. That's what the election was all about.
Listen, I totally understand that.
If you want me
but-
to bring those people in, I'm more than welcome. I have no problem going down here. I'll bring 40 or 50 people in here. We'll violate all the COVID rules in the world.
No, we don't need to violate any rules, Ray. We just want to be able to see what the, we're trying to look at a market, okay? And I totally understand. We want to help, even out, some of these areas. I understand that. But at the same time, we also want to make sure that we help, the landowners be productive in our city, because if not, we're not getting the revenue. If we're not getting the revenue, we're not able to provide good service to our city.
I'm
So
not sure
it's
what
a
you're talking about
revolving door.
on the revenue. Right now, we've got 23 automotive related businesses. We've got a limited number of dollars.
And they all are supporting themselves,
And
right?
we've got a limited, we
They're
have a
all
limited
being
number of
self-sufficient. They're
dollars
not going under.
that are
They're not
being
going
split.
under.
No, but they're not making enough money to actually want to generate any additional revenue to do anything for the existing businesses that are there. And we wind up with
In
pieces
20
of property that makes us look like Dickerson Road. Now, you don't have that in your district. I've got it in mind.
Let it spread out.
Well,
Because apparently we
I have
need.
no
what I'm
problem with
saying
that.
though is that with the market that we had last year, these companies still stayed afloat. Okay? And moving out of this COVID, going into 2021, the revenue is going to increase. It's going to give them the ability to start doing some advancements on their shops. Okay? There's grants, loans in place to be able to help improve their locations if that's what they want to choose to. So what I'm seeing is right now, Ray, is that we want to close the door so we have one car wash sitting there that can provide a great service, which I love it. Do I like the lights? No, I think they should be able to ban some of these colors, but hey, it grabs my attention. But at the same time, if the market's going to prevail for me to be able to put another car wash in there, even though it's not because, you don't want it there, if it's going to be able to provide a market and help offset my price, if I want to be able to go down the street and go to Advanced Auto Parts and buy an alternator, I'm going to price compare. If I know it's going to be $100 there, if I know I'm going to go down to AutoZone, it's going to be $90 there, where am I going to go? I'm going to spend my money where I can get a better product at a better price. Just throwing out names. Same thing for the car wash. Same thing for a car dealership. And I understand it's in your district, but let's have some of these homeowners or, these 8,000 people at least kind of put their voice out there. Let them be heard too.
So the compromise seems to be the Board of Zoning Appeals.
I just feel like that's a slow no.
A what?
A slow no. I mean, I don't know what their pass rate. They never say no. Well, that's good to hear.
That's kind of the part that was because I had heard that before, but
Yeah. I don't know. Never been years since I've been.
It's a better than a nothing.
Yeah. Well,
And I'm not saying I'm for nothing, but I'm just saying that I thought it was, fair compromise, at least.
I've heard everybody say there's too many mattress stores in Mount Juliet. I've seen it on all the social media
great.
and say, why don't you guys do something about the mattress stores?
One of them went out of
But-
business.
yeah, one of them went out. Actually, the whole company went bankrupt at one point.
that's what happens when it gets to be too much. But apparently, there's not too many automotive places. because
So let's
they're
put more.
thriving. Yeah, put some more in other
Okay, all right.
areas if you want. But
Well, okay.
but the
All
point
the
is,
people that have
if
come to
we
me and
didn't
talked to me
have-
about this, I'm going to ignore what they said because I'm going to go along with you and Bill and
Well,
let
they're
y'all
welcome
put
to invest their
more
money
people out there. I mean,
and
more.
build it too if they want.
Huh?
Nobody's standing in their way. If they want to invest their money and do something over there too.
No,
they're welcome
I
to.
think it's a perfect
But listen,
idea. We're going to let
no.
you have as many as you want to, so that we've got a car lot stretching from
There should
the
be a- there
ballpark
should
all the
be-
way to the county line.
Let the people vote with their dollars. Apparently somebody's buying these cars and having their cars serviced.
Mark,
over
these
there.
people don't have the opportunity.
That's not what I mean. Let them
to
vote
buy.
with their dollars by shopping at those places. They're shopping at those places. They're trading with those places. Obviously, because these places are thriving. Well, maybe we need them in other parts of the town, but then you've got the problem of if the car lots do move off 11 Road, what's going to go back there? We don't get the retail people that want to be in Providence. We don't get that. So that's the next conversation. What are you going to do to help us if this does go away?
Nothing.
Okay, so you have a bunch of vacant buildings up there. No, that's
Sorry,
my
buddy.
point. That's
You're
my
on your
point.
own.
So.
We call this religious training. May God be with you because we're not.
Yeah. We're silent partner. So that's the next natural step in the conversation. Hey, I don't want to see any more car lots either, honestly. And, I've been moving them out. I've been getting rid of those things. You know that.
Well, can we back off some of the uses and not restrict all of them? Maybe certain.
Well, I mean,
Obviously,
there are
car-
some
car
that,
lots is-
I mean, it sounds to me like some on here would just want to just open it up and then, put a MAPCO in the middle of Willoughby Station or something. I mean, just whatever you want to do should be allowed
No,
to
come on,
do.
Ray. Ray, listen,
So-
listen. I mean, I've got some
Wild-
old
Wild
buildings in my
West is what we're
district.
talking about.
Ray,
Yes.
listen, man. I mean, I've got some old buildings on Lebanon Road in my district too. Okay. Are they worn down? Some of them are, okay. Some are an eyesore. The same thing for when it comes to some of these little, little stores, dollar stores, when it comes to some of these little, I don't even know what you would call them, basically, again, I'm getting a little flustered here, so I'm trying to really, make a case here. But what it boils down to is that the market's going to help itself. Okay. If the store does not last, it's going to close down. That's what happened to the car wash in my district. What happened to it? I always went down the street next to Speedway. Why? Because it was a better product. I was able to wash my car down there without having to feel that, I didn't lose my quarters, or else the soap was better. The water was more conditioned, But then at the same time, what happened to the one in front of my subdivision? It closed down. The market chose that. Same thing for this, this car wash. It seems like this is the only topic, is this car wash.
The car wash is not
You know?
even anywhere near the only topic that I'm talking about. That happens to be the one that got picked up on, but I'm talking about minute lubes. I'm about car washes. I'm talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 auto parts places in a very small stretch. Then, of course, we've got the car lots on top of that. And like I said, there are
But none of them are
23.
closing up though.
I'm sorry.
None of them are closing up because none of them are closing up currently. They're all open. They're all flourishing. Why? Because there's a market there. There's a lot of homeowners that live in that area that can go to the auto parts store that, determine to fix their cars.
Is Gino still
That's where you got to.
He is trying
Go
to
ahead.
log back in.
I'm sorry.
He's trying to log back in.
Okay.
He logged out, and now Thomas is trying to get him reconnected.
Does
It
anybody
wasn't that
know the
long ago,
traffic,
Bill.
the average daily traffic count on Lebanon Road?
About 28,000.
Yeah, right at 28.
It wasn't that long ago, James. If you remember, we did remember the predatory lending ordinance? that we
Yes,
passed?
I do. I remember that well.
And there were certain pieces that were basically, we found that it was within our purview to be able to say, no, you're not going to do this, because they were aggressively after an economically depressed group of people. Remember that? I mean, that was that was the legal opinion that we got that allowed us to be able to do that, being the predatory lenders. Now, I have no problem backing off on some of this stuff, but when it comes to a tote the note car lot, they are going to go after an area and a certain group of people. And I mean, even the federal government says that that's just not going to be allowed anymore. And that's what allowed us to be able to say, no, you're not going to do, there's no more check cashing places. There's not going to be any more, I can't remember what the other two, Mark, you remember?
Well,
Payday loans.
this conversation's
Payday loans places, that kind of thing. Those types of things. Those are the things that we're looking at, Bill, that we've had to deal with over on this end of town for many, many, many years. And we're trying to figure out a way to stop that from happening. Just to allow anybody to come in here and do the same things that we've been allowing doesn't solve our problem.
Encourage what you do want is the way to do it.
But that's what we were talking about a few minutes ago.
That's right. Yeah.
And again, that's the Board of Zoning Appeals option
No,
by going in and saying, okay, there's certain conditions we want you to meet to be able to do
that's
this.
not encouraging it. That's just giving you a loophole to get into it. I'm saying encourage it, actively encourage to bring those things that you do want there.
I don't have a problem with that, but at the same time, there's going to be some conditions that are going to be put on this so that in commercial general zoning, these types would be allowed if these conditions are met. And that would encourage those things.
No,
No,
that doesn't encourage.
as landowner, no, it wouldn't.
That
You're exactly.
discourages a different.
Okay.
Use.
And you could be restricted by distance too. So you couldn't have 3 auto parts stores right next to each other. So you could restrict it by distance.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying, that would be the equivalent to saying, okay, Walgreens, you can't locate next door to CVS. Because, and that is what they did, or whatever it was across the street. So I don't know if that, I'm not sure how that would work, because they do feed off of each other. But at some point in time, the food dries up and it winds up being cannibalism.
Well, I mean, there is an actual strategy of being as close to the competition as possible. And I mean, there's been studies on that, as you want to get as close, and that way it's if you're as close to your competition as possible, no one ever has to drive any further to get to you than the competition. It's the safest place to be, unless you're just trying to serve a certain segment or something. But you talked about, Vice Mayor, about the payday loans. We did restrict them out to an overlay in industrial. And I think that just makes the case for the problem with this. I agree there's some cosmetic issues on Lebanon Road. I don't agree, though, that this is changing the CG zoning to make it more difficult for competition to come in is going to in any way correct that problem. It doesn't do anything to alleviate any of the things the 26 that we've identified, or you've identified as the problem up there. It doesn't do anything to them. And just like with the payday loans or the other issues on here, I suspect those businesses are going to be right there where they're at currently. They're never going to move. They'd probably buy the building if they had the opportunity to buy the building, because they are literally setting in a monopoly in the city of Mount Juliet. It's the side effect, the unintended consequences, if you'll have it, of government meddling. And while we prevented more coming in, we've created a condition where these guys are never going to go. There's one on 11 Road. They look like they bought the whole building up and don't even use portions of it just so they can maintain a presence there. It's probably so profitable for them that they're able to just hold the whole building in case they need it in the future. It's just my perspective from looking in on it, but they know they're in a situation in a city that's growing, one of the fastest growing ones out there, and they're never going to see any more competition than what they've got right now. And I'm afraid that's what, if we're not careful, by even putting more restrictions on this, that we're gonna set up a similar situation. And we talk about car washes. The one that's in Commissioner Trevitt's district is going out of business. That area is slated. I know there's discussions in that for redeveloping it. It's an eyesore. It's an eyesore right now, and it's going to be redeveloped. We're going to see investment going in there, and a new business is going to take its place. It may be automotive centered, but it's going to be better than what we've got. And we've seen a better one come in there at Benton Douglas. We've seen it upgrade. If we hadn't been able to put that in there, they might have been a situation where that somebody might have had interest in keeping that business going because there's limited competition. That's just the way I see it. We talk about compromise on this. I don't think this fixes the solution. I don't think this fixes it to begin with. I agree we have to do something, but I don't know that zoning is going to be the way that we're going to be able to get this done. We can stop new stuff from coming in, but I don't think it does anything to the existing stuff, and that's the problem. We can stop more from coming in, but I think the more is the solution.
Okay, so, and you're right, it does not address the existing at all. We do have a problem. I don't want to bring in more. Like I said, I mean, if you take and split that $1 so many ways, it becomes cannibalism. We just start eating the same dollar each time. So you're not getting any additional property tax. You're getting the same property tax, just coming from 23 different directions. So what I'm saying is, why don't we start doing things to encourage, as Mark said, different types of businesses coming in here? The ones that are coming in on Lebanon Road, if we want to allow them to come in, let them come in, but come in under certain conditions. For instance, that I know of, and I can't tell if there is even a landscape ordinance that we've got that says you have to maintain your landscape. I know we've got a landscape ordinance that says you have to build something and have a certain landscape, but is there anything in there that says we have to maintain it? What is that landscape going to look like 10 years down the road? I'm just using that as an example.
Ray, do you understand what an incentive is versus a disincentive?
Hold on a second. I'm not finished. I'm maybe going around the world to get to your point. I'm trying to make your point.
Well, I'm
So,
Well, come on.
all right. Yeah, well, and actually I'm not, because where I'm going to is the Board of Zoning Appeals again.
Well, I think you're putting more red tape in the way instead of what I'm asking is take some of the red tape out of the way.
We've taken the
Allow
red
some
tape out of the way, and what we've got is what we
No,
got.
You haven't.
You know, I've not seen an
No.
upgrade on anything in there except for Christian Brothers, the only thing that I have seen.
Where have you been?
I'm right in the middle of it, brother.
I know.
I don't go to Orlando
Well,
every other
Let's go
week.
get your eyes checked because you drive up down the road every day. I've seen you, sent you pictures.
By the way, to clarify, Mark and I are
You've been
friends
involved?
and
Yeah.
argue like this all the time. So,
You should hear us on the phone.
yeah, it gets uglier on the telephone. Go ahead.
You've been involved in some of the projects that have gotten renovated. I'm not trying to say.
I understand.
you've
Yeah,
been-
you're
but
right.
You know what I'm saying, Starbucks and other things. You know what's been upgraded in town. You know that. But the only thing that can afford an upgrade like that is something like a Starbucks or a Publix or something. I'm saying let's encourage, instead of having this antique mall and little antique shops with crap sitting all over the front yard, maybe that could be a nice little coffee shop. You know, maybe it could be something like that. If we didn't have to spend so much money to make something fit for a
Okay.
business.
Again, tell me what incentive it would take at that business. You know what,
I'm telling you.
the business
I'm
we're talking
telling you.
about.
That's what I'm saying. Relax some of the landscape standards. Relax some of the parking requirement where we don't have to put in this huge parking lot for every little business. Relax some of the I don't know if the stormwater
Well, I
is
mean,
something that
actually,
can be
our
relaxed.
parking ordinance is very minimal. We actually ask people all the time to reduce the number of parking
In
spaces.
Providence, you didn't
No, I
ask
do it
me to
every
reduce
time.
it at Stag's
You're-
building.
Well, where are you going to expand your parking?
What?
You don't have any room to expand. I mean,
don't.
it's
You made
existing
me pave
parking.
the whole thing. to
It's
get
an
enough
existing
parking.
parking.
It wasn't.
And
have
you
to meet
whined
the
about that
code.
too, didn't you?
And there's nowhere to park there now. I mean, you're right on the minimum. There's nowhere to park now. It's hard to
I think
park
this is
over
my
there.
point. If we went out there and took one of those little houses and wanted to convert it into a whatever, little restaurant, little pizza shop, whatever, we would have to do so much to bring it up to the standards to do that. Or took a raw piece of land and wanted to build a building on it for it. We've got to do so much that it's just not feasible to do it on the north side of town.
Yeah.
That, you know, I was looking at putting a walk-in clinic on the lot next to Slim Chickens. Ran all the numbers on it. It doesn't make sense. It costs so much to do it there. I'm
And
better
what
off to do
was, what
nothing.
was causing the most expense? Parking?
Everything. It's not one thing. It's not just the brick, but that's a part of it. It's the, you know, what I got to do with stormwater, what I've got to do with parking, what I've got to do with adding the brick and the cosmetic.
I mean,
things
we
that
have
you
state
to do.
permitting through,
Yeah, I know
for
the
stormwater.
stormwater
I
may
mean, we
not
don't
be
really
something we
have
can
a lot of
impact.
lenience on that.
I
I mean, the
get that.
brick, I mean, the planning commission grants waivers all the time. I mean, for instance, look at Old Dog Sanctuary. That's a beautiful building. It's not 100% brick and they got a waiver.
Is that a novel road?
Yeah, across from Cinco.
There, go get a waiver.
I think.
But that's the lenience that you're asking for, right?
It
I
is,
mean, they
but
give it, but now they're not going to give you brick o block like you could propose to
that's
me
what I'm saying.
sometimes.
Yeah, so, you know, you're talking about little things. I'm talking about make it open it up a lot more where it is a significant savings. But
Yeah, what Mark's saying, of course, is true. You know, anything like that would help in the development. But Ray's been out here for years. We've been out here for years. I mean, let's go back in history. Let's go back before there was a Publix there and there was an old log home that was in real bad repair. Let's go back where the Walgreens is and there's an old shabby house there. And that was all developed. It happened to be on our property, but that is a pretty nice area there. Let's go back to where Mount Juliet Wine and Spirits was. That was a rundown bookstore, and it was before that it was an auto parts, and now it's a nail salon and a wine and spirits and a restaurant.
And it's gorgeous, by the way. I love it. Especially the liquor store. I'm really liking the liquor store right now.
I'll let you make next month's payment. on it.
Okay, no problem.
Let's take next door. Mark did with Stag's old pharmacy. He refaced it, put more tenants in it. Next door at Verizon, you refaced that. The Starbucks across the street was a Dollar General that was run down.
Got hit by a tornado, actually.
Got hit by the tornado, right? But it was run down. Had a car service in the back, and guess what? Dollar General wanted to go back there, and the car service wanted to go back there, but the dollars wouldn't work because the land was too valuable. I know nobody wants to wait, but economics will take care of all these problems. Because when the
And
right
another
person
tornado.
comes along that offers, we own, Hazel's, what is it? Mount Juliet Motors. We own Mount Juliet
Hazel's.
Motors. If somebody comes around there and offers us a couple of $1 million from Mount Juliet Motors, guess what? Mount Juliet Motors history, but nobody's crazy enough to do that. But all I'm saying is the traffic count. When we moved here, traffic count on 11 Road was 8,000, 7,000. Then it went to 12, then went to 14, then went to 17, and then went to 24, and then now it's at 27.8. And the traffic, it drives the economy that drives the value. So in what's happened in the last 10 years is in the next 10 years, you're gonna see more of it. And you'll see these places drop out because they can't afford it. But until then, it's really not fair to drop them out. You know what I mean? That's just my opinion.
So it sounds like to me, the newer zonings are calling for them to be taken completely out. The older zonings are talking about basically doing what we do. And it just, again, as Scott said earlier, it sounds like a compromise would be to say, yeah, you can do it, but just do it under these conditions.
Right.
And then you don't put conditions that are not attainable. That's not what I'm saying, Mark. You got that,
It's just,
you get that dewy
you're
look
talking
on your
about
face there.
add
I see
more
it.
red tape to it.
Huh?
That's just the opposite. I don't care if you ban the car lots, frankly. I don't.
They're
I
already
wish you
banned.
would.
They're already banned, actually.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, then what are we talking about?
Huh?
What are we talking about?
He's
Car
talking
wash?
about-
The other
How come a
18,
car wash?
the other 18. For
It's,
instance,
do you want me to read the list?
would you please? Yes.
Sure, it's auto body repair and paint shops, auto repair services, auto towing, boat dealer, car wash, motorcycle dealers, radiator and muffler shops, recreational and utility vehicle sales, service and storage, tire sales, retreading and repair shops.
You know, we should have boat dealers over there.
It keeps auto and home supply store in there for like the advanced auto and O'Reilly's or what's the one?
For instance, it goes through
So
here
what are
and
you
it
talking about?
says additional information in
Pet
Spring
Boys.
Hill. Jennifer, you were talking about John, I think, one of y'all. I'm sorry, did I?
John.
I'm sorry. Y'all were talking about vehicle repair service establishments, no partially dismantled, wrecked, junked, or discarded vehicles or vehicles that sit on one or more flat tires or are inoperable in any manner may be stored outdoors on these premises.
Where's that? What is it?
This is in Spring Hill.
Why don't we have that?
I'm sorry.
Why don't we have that?
I wouldn't want that on our property.
Well, it's allowed right now in
Well, that's
commercial
the
general.
ones that he's
Put it
talking
in
about
the
that they do
ordinance.
now.
That's what I'm trying to take out.
I'm about
Ours
to-
don't have any, our supplementals don't have anything that manager.
It just says junkyard.
Right.
But it's RV and boat storage.
But then
was-
who, I mean, let's be real. Who polices that?
Marty,
That's not entirely Marty's job.
calls me.
I don't know, but I can take you to 4 different locations right now on Lebanon Road where it's not being enforced and it's allowed.
Right now. And Marty works really hard, but Marty's one person. So,
No, I'm not trying to take anything with Marty. I mean, I love him today. He does a great job for the city.
so ours says no storage of vehicles shall be permitted for periods in excess of 30 days. No use shall include any use deemed as a junkyard. No outdoor storage or display of tire or other automotive parts. All damaged vehicles shall be stored within the building or within a fully screened from public view or adjacent property, minimum of 6 foot high opaque fence or wall. And it can't be within 50 feet of a budding residential. Temporary work can be performed outside. So basically, it's just asking for a fence for the auto body repair and no junkyards.
That's under ours currently.
Those are the supplemental.
Supplemental
Yeah.
provisions.
And those can be modified
That's
Same way.
because the junkyard's subjective. I mean, with a junkyard to one might be art to another. Honey.
somebody's for jar.
I mean, one could say that about an antique shop right now too.
And actually, we've got a couple of those on Lebanon Road right now.
So I think that just needs to be tightened up.
Yeah.
And then enforced as well.
Well, I will be asking for a zoning
That would
enforcement
be the
officer
easiest
for the
thing
next budget
to-
year, just so y'all know.
I don't know why we would wait. Did what, John?
That would be an easy thing to amend right now, too.
Totally. It's
It'd
no
be
different.
all
than this.
encompassing and done in one swoop, and it would apply just to those uses.
That'd be just the supplemental provisions for automotive and marine craft sales, service and repair. So I guess you just need to come up with some ideas of those supplemental uses.
Well, have y'all gotten an idea of what we're looking for and what would be acceptable?
Well, I think that we're pretty close with what you just read,
Okay.
don't you? But is there anything above and beyond
That was the
list?
Spring Hill piece that we're,
Mhm. I think that was Spring Hill.
So to be
I mean, I want to know, I mean, I want to make sure that Bill and James and Jennifer, I mean, this is in my district, but at the same time, this would apply
So it
to
wouldn't have to go through
any commercial general
okay, good.
property. So I mean, I want to make sure that they're not,
It'd just be really, okay. I like that.
do you understand what I mean, they have to have a vote. My one little bitty vote by myself, I'm nothing. So, you know, I need to get this compromise through.
I can also say my new person.
I think I heard too, in this, as you know, we're discussing, was part of the solution to maybe cleaning up some of the existing is just finding a way to enforce what we already have on the books.
I agree with you 100%. Yes.
And I think that's an executive action that we can probably work on through the city manager. It may need additional resources on it, but I think we would be better served to some degree as investing in enforcing what we've already got there, seeing what kind of results we get. You know, there may be some businesses out there that their business model only works by skirting some of our existing zoning ordinances on that. And if that's the case, then maybe we can encourage that to operate somewhere else. But, you know, help, and that's going to go back to, I think, the original intent, Vice Mayor, to bringing this was about the aesthetics, the number of businesses out there. Maybe we just need to look at the enforcement and maybe allocate some resources to that and get some of that cleaned up. If that's not successful, maybe we want to make some small steps and some corrections and otherwise. But my problem with the corrections is I do not know if any of these corrective actions are going to put any pressure on the existing problem that we have up there currently. That's the one thing that bothers me about this is approaching this from a zoning standpoint. It really lets the stuff that's going on right now continue to operate as it is.
Again, I don't disagree with you, and I don't know that that's 100%, but at the same time, I don't think that we're giving enough requirements. We're not putting enough on them when they do get a zoning, the conditions that I'm talking about, rather, when we do a conditional piece. You know, we go through and we look and see what other cities have done to allow them to do this. Most cities, as John talked to about, I say most, some cities have taken them completely out of a commercial general zoning. They're not allowed at all. Now, that's in a new city. That being in a new city, those cities haven't experienced what we have, where we've had a history of bringing them in. So that zoning is not necessarily going to be addressing anything that is existing. It's going to be all new. They want to avoid doing what we've already done, I guess is the best way of putting that. So what we've got to do is actually come up with two pieces. One of those being a piece that addresses existing, and the other being a piece that addresses the future side of it. You know, and John, you're the planning guy. I'm not going to try and pretend to even come up with some of these, but you probably could do a little research and come up and find out how other cities have done that. Have you had a chance to already, or is it?
I'm making notes. I can.
Okay. So
some of it is, you know, like the two different classifications of repair is one thing, you know, one gets,
right.
You know, you can do that. Or like the additional, you know, I didn't look through like supplemental regs for some of these newer ones. That could be something to, you know, how they, if they're better than ours or sturdier, you know, have more clout, I guess. That'd be something to look into for sure. Yeah.
I had somebody made a point that we actually many years ago, and Bill, you'll remember this. All the property that is CG was C3 in the county. Remember that? And then it was brought in. Then when it was annexed, we created CRC to try and encourage variety of uses, but that didn't work. And there's just a concentration of CG existing that the CRC just hadn't done what it was supposed to do at the time. So I mean, that's part of the history that went along with it. We've got to be able to increase those uses throughout the city, so we're not concentrating them on Lebanon Road. Isn't that what you just said,
That's
Mark?
what I agree, absolutely. But then you got to find something to replace them with.
Rather than just saying anything else but. So
Yeah, right, right.
I got,
Vice Mayor,
sir.
I just want to add one thing. I agree totally with the mayor. Years ago, we had 3 people. Of course, over the years, as you start needing personnel in other places, you shift those. And I think the growth has caught up with us a little bit and add another person. So if the Board of Commissioners would consider that other body, that'd be tremendous, because then you can put a person on each side of the city to enforce those codes. So there are some, and you're exactly right. A lot of those do end up being on Lebanon Road with some of the used car dealers and things of that nature. And some of the older shops, one of those has been, of course, one of our businesses with parking on grass and things of that nature. That from one of them right there close to Midway Center. So
Yep.
that would help tremendously, Mayor. I appreciate that. We had talked about possibly doing that last year. And of course, with the COVID and the uncertainty of the economy, we took that position out. And so if the commission would support that, I do think that would make a tremendous difference, because it enables to get somebody out there that can stay after this, because the process for penalizing people and citing them, it's arduous. As everybody knows, you have to write the letter and you give them 10 days, and then you got to follow up. But we can do that with the help of Gino. He understands that process. We've also met with another city recently. Springfield has a lot of these similar issues. It's an older town, got a lot of dilapidated buildings, and that would help us big time. I think it'd make a tremendous difference in our community. So
There
thank
is
you for-
actually, and I'm not going to call the name of the business, but there is actually a building. It is on Lebanon Road. It is in my district. And this has been 4 years ago. I specifically asked for them to look at this business because the roof is sagging.
Yeah, I remember that one.
You remember that?
I do, yeah.
Yeah. And I was told there was not a thing we could do about it.
And it may be more that it is aesthetic,
It's
but
more
I think it's one that the
It's not
building
aesthetic to me
inspectors.
when the roof's caving in.
Yeah.
It's kind of structural.
Yeah, and I think I know it's one you're talking about. Yeah, and I think they looked in it at the time, and structurally, they had to provide a letter of some sort or something at the time. But I agree with you. I know what you're talking about. And sometimes structurally, it's sound. It just doesn't look good. And of course, it doesn't give us anything we can do at that point if it looks bad. But if it is structurally unsafe, then yes, that would be an issue. But I think I know the building you're talking about.
I'm pretty sure you do. Yeah. That kind of stuff's got to be addressed as well as the new stuff coming in.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Mayor James, what I was just asking John to do would be to do some research as to some supplementals that might go along with that to make that a conditional use and to supplement the area as it comes in. Do you have any problem with him, us tasking him with that and asking him to bring that back to the next meeting, that we might put some of that into and change this to a conditional use as opposed to,
No, supplemental.
no, I'm sorry,
It'd be a supplemental, not a conditional use.
is there a difference? I'm not familiar with
Well,
it.
conditional use would go to the Board of Appeals, which I think is.
Well, that's exactly what I was asking for, though.
Oh, you're asking for Board
Yeah.
of Appeals.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, the Board of Zoning Appeals should have some say in that and make sure if it meets the conditions that we put on it, they can't deny it.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So what you're saying is make it a conditional use and add to our existing supplemental provisions list.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that way, and then of course, we would have to make sure that the Board of Zoning Appeals, the guys that are on there are well versed in what those are.
Larry Cersei's on there.
Larry's smart as a tax. I mean, he would understand and
He's our
know exactly what we're
chairperson,
talking
and,
about.
and his experience on planning commission helps with that
Right.
too.
I mean, Mayor, does that sound like something?
I mean, I'd be very interested in looking that over and seeing what we can do. I mean, it to your point, I mean, it's a two-pronged problem. One is cleaning up some of the stuff that we got now, and then the other is not shutting down Lebanon Road, obviously, for business, but getting a little bit more control over what's going in there and making sure it is compatible. It is putting back in there, but it's at the same time, I mean, I know there's a lot of car-related things that are on that road, but as somebody pointed out, there's about 30,000 cars going through there every day. So there's a lot of demand for it, a lot of people. I know it seems like a lot, but at the same time, we got a lot of people with a lot of needs out there to take care of. But to your point, yes, I mean, I'd definitely be more than willing to look that over and see if we can come up with something that's going to work. And I think that's probably some wisdom in that, taking some smaller steps at first, seeing where that gets us. And then that's a lot easier to pull it back if we need to, if we've made small steps, than it is to shut it down and encourage people to go somewhere else, because, you know, sometimes those businesses, we lose them, we don't get them back, and even in an upgraded format.
Bill, what do you think?
I support that, you know, exactly what James said. It does make sense. I'm actually doing a little Google road map as I'm going up and down Lebanon and really trying to get an understanding of what you're seeing and what I see every day. But I'm going to go back to the same thing that I said earlier, which is, you know, yes, we see a lot of cars, you know, dealerships, auto industry out there, but at the same time, but I'm also seeing a lot of convenience stores, seeing a lot of animal stores. You know, the market is going to back the demand. And, you know, if we've got 30,000 cars going up and down that road, you know, that's a lot of revenue generated for the city. And whether if it's going to be for, you know, for repairing your car, cleaning your car, or buying a car, or else if it's going to be providing other services, again, these business owners are not going to come into Mount Juliet if they don't feel that they're going to make a profit. So, you know, I'm eager to hear what the study's going to share, and see what we have some other options. But my biggest thing is I don't want to shortchange the business owners that are coming in. Also, I don't want to shortchange the businesses that have already built a building based off the existing rules and guidelines, you know. And Christian Brothers is a great example. They spent, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars to making sure that they met our codes, rules, and regulations. And now all of a sudden we're going to kind of not really bend the rules, but now we're going to kind of make them less stringent for certain areas. So that's my concern. So I don't want to water down what we already have on Lebanon Road. So
I think actually what I was, and maybe I'm mistaken, and I'm not talking about bending the rules at all. What I'm talking about is Christian Brothers would be more the rule as rather than the exception to the rule. I mean, Christian Brothers to me is a huge addition to my district. I love it. I love that car wash. I go up there regularly to that car wash. There are plenty of these businesses, O'Reilly's, AutoZone, the rest of them. I go to those. Actually, I get a rash when I leave my district. I'm staying in that whole area so long. I love it. And I want to be able to continue to do that. But at the same time, I want it to be upgraded from what it is to something that we can all be prouder of. I'm already proud of it, but I want to be prouder of it.
No, I understand. But at the same time, I mean, these businesses are already flourishing. They're doing well, and they fought through something that none of us had to experience of 2020. So my thought is, when it comes down to it, is if they made it through that, they should be able to continue on their businesses, and the market should dictate whether or not if they're going to make it or not. And if Christian Brothers decided to move to Mount Juliet in your district because they, obviously they did a study, they seen that there was a market there, even though that you had 23 other businesses there, they still put something there. And guess what? They're doing a great job. I've just seen probably 4 or 5 additional vehicles got dropped off there in a one-day trip on a semi-truck. Obviously, they're doing great business.
That's not theirs. That's
So-
one of the car hunters across the street.
No. They were actually, these were being repaired. I even watched it in there. They weren't for car hunters.
Oh, okay.
Which, by the way, car hunters did a great job on redoing their building. Why? Because they're selling enough cars. They redid the whole front of their building, painted it. It looks great. Great example of the market being able to provide them to redo their buildings.
And it's
That's a great
also-
example. Thank you for bringing that up.
It's also a great example of the city working with those guys. We allowed millings in their rear new lot. So
Yeah.
there you go, Mark.
Jennifer?
Well, I think if contrary to Ray's point, if you put where you've got to go to Boza every time you change use of your property when your zoning was already there, it's going to make it very cumbersome and make it make it very difficult. I'm okay about cleaning up the area, but just, put it in the code. Don't make you have to go to Boza to do it.
Bill, again, y'all own the property out there, and I understand that. If I were sitting in your position, I would say exactly the same thing that you are. But what I'm saying is not anything different than what I've been saying, what we've been saying, a lot of us for years. Property, as your property increases in value, you're going to be able to put more onto it. Well, the more conditions, if we put a condition on there that increases the value of the property around you, there's an incentive there to bring yours up to a comparable point.
Well, the condition is one thing, but to have to go to Boza to get everything approved.
Well, you're not. You're just meeting the conditions, but BOZA is just because it's a conditional use. BOZA is the instrument that you would use to go through. And as long as you met those conditions, then you're okay. So, I mean, you're not making anything. You're just putting a layer here that, you've got the BOZA committee that will say, okay, do you meet these conditions? Yes, we do. Then fine. You're approved.
And of course, it's another layer. If somebody's renting the property or something, it's another layer of delay, which may be what the city wants. I'm just making the case.
It'll add 30 days for public notices.
Add 30?
30
Okay.
days.
And if these conditions are really required, I mean, I think you mentioned it earlier, put them in the code, in the restrictions.
Supplemental provisions.
Supplemental provisions is what we've talked about under the automotive. And then what you've got coming in when they're analyzing the site, they know exactly what they've got to do to meet, just like we do a new building.
I agree with
But you would have to market a building for a use that may or may not be granted.
That's exactly right. And
And with the supplemental regs, there's no Board of Zoning Appeals involvement. Those just apply with anything, anything that comes
to the
through.
automotive is what we're just.
So what you would remove that, what the mayor just mentioned, the what if.
So you would remove the P and it would be SUP, like supplemental provisions.
And it would be
So it's still a
without,
zoning ordinance amendment.
and without any questions asked, it applies. All of them apply.
Can I ask about the existing? If it's vacant for 30 months, I think it was going through as a conditional use. If it's vacant, would that also apply for supplemental?
No, if it's vacant for 30 months, then they couldn't continue the use.
So if it's a car lot and that car lot's out of business,
Right?
and it stays vacant for 30 months, at the end of that 30-month period, what happens?
They could not continue the use if you took the use out of that zoning
Oh,
classification.
but you have to take it out.
Correct.
Okay. So
It wouldn't
supplemental
apply at
doesn't.
all if we.
Well, I
left it
mean,
like it
that's
is.
actually the car lot thing's
Right.
done.
Car
So
lot's
that's not
done.
even applied.
Right.
So
Mayor?
it would be like the car wash, auto body repair, those types of things. If it was taken out of the ordinance altogether.
And I will say too, we talk about what it was and, when, say, if I went up here and bought a piece of property in the 1980s, it was allowed that we could put a big flashing arrow sign on there and we could have a metal building. But, over the years, those laws have changed where you can't build a metal building on Lebanon Road anymore. You can't have an arrow that flashes, open for fish bait or whatever. So as things change, as we gradually, move things in a better direction, those changes are made, and those are just zoning changes.
But the use didn't change, Ray. In that case, we could still have the same usage because we got it under CG. And yeah, we can't have the flashing arrow signs. I remember when there used to be 20 in the city, the flashing arrows. And
Absolutely.
everybody was up evil about it. I didn't like them. I couldn't stand them. I asked the tenant to take them off our property, but I couldn't make them. But the city passed an ordinance against them. But the use of the land was still viable to the owner and to the citizens of Mount Juliet. Anyway, just my comments.
These are changes. These are changes that happen in every city as it grows. We were, let's see, Kenny, what year were we? Is it 72 when we were incorporated? And you'd be amazed at the changes that have taken place since 1972.
Much of Lebanon Road wasn't even in the city then.
No.
And that's what I was wanting to say on historically, all those properties along Lebanon Road were C3 in the county. And then as we annexed it, our commercial general was the light zoning and it just went to that classification. I think when Bobby Franklin was still here, they created that CRC zoning district to try to, do the same thing, clean up that area. It was more restrictive, but use there on Lebanon Road.
Well, a lot too that was built on Lebanon Road, as everybody knows. Lebanon Road was the original gateway into Wilson County. Mount Juliet was a spot in the road at that time. It was before the interstate system was built. And so a lot of what got built was there because you couldn't even get off at Mount
Yeah,
Juliet
not
Road.
until the
And-
60s. What,
Yeah, and that's why we ended up with a lot of the
65?
buildings that we've got on
Almost
Lebanon
40.
Road now.
Yeah, it looks like that all the way to downtown
It
Nashville.
does.
Yeah.
Same way with
40.
Gallatin Road, if you think into Laverne, sort of the
Yeah,
similar
65,
look.
68,
It was the
yeah.
gateway.
Isn't that
Mount Juliet
amazing?
didn't originally have an exit ramp here.
I mean, we went to Florida from West Tennessee when I was a child,
On
and we
231.
went right down 70, right down Lebanon Road to
Mhm.
get there because there wasn't an
It
interstate.
was our Route 66.
Yeah.
And it took them like several months in that horse and buggy that they were in too.
That's
Yeah,
right.
well.
We stopped by Ray's house.
He did. Yeah.
I knew
For some water.
He brought me a banana pudding.
He was
Far as
complaining
late
about the
tablets to
auto
school.
service. I said, we don't have auto.
Can't give you any service.
Couldn't get hay for my horses.
Ray wants to revert back to the hay and the horse
Yeah.
thing.
Hey, there are some that would vote for that right now too.
Hey, Ray.
Sorry.
Being in school, they didn't have chalkboards. It's slate.
No, it was actually a chisel and a slate. Yeah.
Hieroglyphics.
Hieroglyphics were in demand.
So are we
Let
gonna
me,
get this- Are
interject
we gonna
here
get a
if I
preview
can.
of that, of the write-up,
Mayor, I can't hear you.
the supplemental?
It's it. Oh, you want our supplemental
Ours.
provisions?
No, the new one.
Oh,
Yeah, I gave it to you.
Oh, you did?
The one from Spring Hill.
Okay, so we're just gonna mirror this? Is this what we're
Unless
doing?
you guys want to add anything to it. It's very similar to our
It's
existing
actually not
one.
that much different, the supplemental regs.
Have you read this?
Did you write that in Spring Hill or was it already?
No, I didn't know. I was there when they were doing it though. No, they paid a lot of money.
Save us a lot of money, man.
Yeah.
John,
Oh, I didn't.
Jennifer?
Yes.
you feel like you have good guidance here?
I handed out Spring Hill's ordinance that John printed off, and I'll email it to you guys along with our supplemental provisions. And just shoot us an email back if you want any add-ons to that. If you feel like you need any additional supplemental
Can you
provisions
email the
added.
soft copy to me? Can I get a soft copy?
An email copy?
The word,
Do you have Word? Okay, I don't. I'm gonna make you a copy of this.
okay.
Our current.
Does this have to go back before the?
Jennifer,
does
is
this go
that
back to
you?
The planning commission?
Oh my God.
Here, I get it.
Oh, thank
That's a couple, not just theirs.
Ray, does this have to go
Oh, yeah,
back,
yeah,
sorry,
that's-
Vice Mayor, does this have to go back to the planning commission, or is this something that's gonna?
This, and Mayor, correct me if I'm wrong, but this will need to go, once it's written up, it needs to go back before the planning commission, before it comes to us, will it not? Gino?
I think Gino's gonna tell us that's a big enough change that it's going to, have to go back to the planning commission.
You read my mind.
That's what I figured.
Okay.
That would be what you call a major change.
All right.
Any change?
Mayor, do you have anything else?
No, just want to be clear, make sure that our planning department has good guidance on our next steps here.
So we're gonna go with looking at additional supplemental regs, not doing a conditional use change at this point.
That's correct.
We're gonna make it apply to every use or every automotive use that comes through without a trip to Board of Zoning Appeals, correct?
Right.
That's correct.
That, I want to make sure that Bill Robinson is not mad at me and will eat lunch with me and stuff.
I can't see Bill, I got a sign over here, but.
No, that's no problem. We can look into that for sure.
That, Mayor, does that sound all right with you?
Sounds good to me. I mean, I'll be anxious to look over it once they get it prepared, and I think we have a clear path forward. It was a little questionable at the last commission meeting. I think everybody's, I don't want to speak for everybody exactly, but I want to say, I think my impression at least is that everybody's on the same page, that there is some opportunities as far as cleaning up some areas and putting maybe a better foot forward in some places. But at the same time, I think everybody's very conscious that we want to strike a balance between that and meeting the needs of the people that call our city home and want to operate and do business here, which we're very appreciative and for, obviously, or we would not have the healthy tax base that we have now.
I would ask that, I mean, we're coming up on the spring of the season. Since we no longer have 1.5 feet of snow outside, that's going to give our guys in the codes more opportunity to be out working in the field. And what I'd like to do is to give whatever resources we need to the city manager so that he can do whatever he needs to do to make sure that, I mean, y'all know I've got a problem with and fortunately it's not with Mr. Robinson or Mr. Lineberry's properties, but it's some properties that are on Lebanon Road that are dilapidated and need addressing. I don't think we've got the necessary manpower to get to address them.
Yeah. Mayor and commission, would you guys be supportive of us bringing I know we hate doing things before the budget, but
We can't really have that kind of
Oh, that's fair. Okay. Well, I'll bring something.
but I think he knows what we're talking about.
Yeah. Supportive.
But I mean, that would be the other piece, as Commissioner Hefner said, that's the other piece that I'm looking at to start addressing some of the existing problems that we've got. And there are some and generally Lebanon Road is the area. And Commissioner Travat's area, my area, predominantly in my area. I'm needing help, so.
We got auto shops in District 3,
I think
couple.
Nah, they got wiped out by a tornado.
You got one in Valley Center that's non-complying.
Oh, really? Okay, there you go.
We're talking about the Wilson Central.
It's
West
grandfathered
Wilson
in.
Central.
It's grandfather.
It's like Auto Pro or something.
It's been there a long time. They've always.
We there?
Mayor, it's all right with you. I've got to go get pizza for my
Get
daughter.
this resource on board.
I think we're at the point where
I can't hear you, sir.
where the planning department's got clear guidance on this. I'm not really hearing any new discussion on it. I'd say at this point, I'll make a motion for adjournment if there's no objections.
No objections
Is there
here.
a second on adjournment?
I'll second it.
I'm good.
All right. If there's no objection, then we have a motion to adjourn, and without objection, I'll move that we adjourn by unanimous consent. Thanks, everyone.
Mayor Chef, stay safe.
Thank you, everyone.
Lights off.
I said all those in favor, leave.